When I was a kid, I made a promise. I said that I was going to play Terraria for my channel.
A channel that is going to be about Terraria.
So here I am 10 years later on a different channel, ready to fulfill the prophecy. Regular Terraria would be too easy, so instead I'll be playing on Expert Mode. Join me as I progress through all stages of the game and beat every single boss Terraria has to offer to deliver the ultimate Expert Mode experience. Like every Terraria world begins, you start off with the grand goal of taking down armies and slaying gods, but quickly realize you have to start off small. So my first objective was to get the fundamentals. I got wooden armor and did some exploring throughout the world. I needed to build a house to survive the night, so I did that, and nightfall finally came. Using a wooden boomerang, I was able to take down tiny flying eyeballs and zombies, letting me survive the first night. While the boomerang was useful for a while, I headed to the mines for better tools. I found my first heart crystal in a cave, which increased the maximum amount of health my character had. Then I went back up to the surface and made my house area bigger enough so more NPCs can move in. After finishing that up, while mining I found a railroad track, which led me to these accessories called the Hermes boots that let me run super fast. Then I found the mushroom biome, which I forgot how great the soundtrack was. Collected more hearts and started working on a base for the Eye of Cthulhu, the first boss of the game. But before I fought him, I noticed a new NPC spawned in near the ocean, called the Angler, who was being very demanding. I made him a house despite him being rude and found a shark pet as well. I bought throwing knives and shurikens in preparation for the first boss. Nighttime was approaching and it was time to fight the Eye of Cthulhu. I lost badly. Then I went exploring for better gear to defeat him, and I lost again. My younger self would be very disappointed if they knew they grew up and lost to the Eye. I made some small adjustments like getting a bat statue for better defense and better armor as well. So this time, I'm 100% ready to fight the Eye of Cthulhu. After finally beating the Eye, I was rewarded with its shield, which let me dash into any direction. Even though beating the Eye was a great accomplishment for now, I still had a ton of enemies left. I needed more NPCs to move in and help me take them on. So I built homes for them using stone bricks and got a villager pylon, which was going to allow me to teleport all around the world and go to other villager settlements. The next boss I needed to take down was King Slime, who was pretty easy. Then I took to the skies using gravitational potions to get to the Sky Islands. The islands contained a red balloon and a lucky horseshoe that negates fall damage. So I jumped off the Sky Islands and landed on the dungeon. I'm not allowed in the dungeon right now, but sometimes you can get a weapon called a water boat early if you're lucky. I tried doing that, but I got killed by 6 dungeon guardians and gave up. Next I visited the Crimson, the evil biome of my world, to fight the next boss, the Brain of Cthulhu. I broke 3 altars to summon the brain but died pretty quickly. I made jester arrows hoping it could pierce the brain and its minions and make the fight a lot easier. It was time for the rematch. After I took down the brain, I still needed more pylons around the world to make traveling easier. So I built an extra house near my base, a house in the desert, and a house in the jungle. The houses look great, and now I can teleport between most biomes instantly. I was told a meteorite crash landed from space, so I went to check that out as quickly as I could. I found it in the jungle and decided to mine it. But while that was happening, I got a warning a goblin army was approaching from the east. So I quickly made meteorite armor and the space gun, which when combined together allow me to use the gun without any drawbacks. With my new gear, I made easy work of the goblin archers, warriors, and sorcerers, and took down the goblin army. The next boss on my list was Skeletron, who's at the dungeon. So I went over there and made an arena to prepare for Skeletron, who apparently is a curse trapped inside of this NPC for some reason. So I have to defeat the skeleton curse trapped inside of this old man. I tried to do just that, but it didn't go well. The space gun isn't doing enough damage, so I switched to this shotgun called the boomstick, and here's how it went. After I defeated Skeletron, I finally had access to the dungeon, where I avoided traps, fought a vast amount of skeletons, got a bunch of chest loot, and died several times. An NPC called the Mechanic was trapped in the dungeon, so I set them free and made them a house in the snow biome, which they loved, by the way. The next boss I was going to fight was the queen bee in the jungle. The beehive where its nest is located is kind of tiny, so I made a huge arena instead using bombs to have enough space. And once the arena was complete, it was time to fight the queen bee. Overall, Queen Bee isn't that hard. I just dodged his dashes and everything was okay. I defeated the Queen Bee and got the bee's knees, which is my favorite pre-hard mode weapon. It was now time to defeat the last pre-hard mode boss, which was located in the underworld. So I dug all the way down to fight it. I explored a ton, got a shadow chest, mined this ore called Hellstone for better armor, and made a platform across the whole underworld to fight the wall. I'm well prepared now, so it's time to begin. The wall of flesh is kind of difficult in expert mode. It shoots a ton of lasers and honestly, I forgot which eye to target to do the most damage. Towards the end of the fight, I ran out of platforms to stand on, but luckily, I took it down before things got bad. And now with the wall of flesh defeated, I'm officially in hard mode. Biomes are more challenging and the bosses become something else entirely. But before I deal with all that, I have to break down demon altars to spawn in new ores, which I could use to upgrade my player. Then I went mining for palladium, mithril, and adamantite. But while that was happening, I got a message letting me know I felt vibrations from deep below, which means the destroyer was going to spawn. He did just that, and I was clearly not ready yet. The destroyer was one of the 3 mechanical bosses, the ones I was going to have to defeat in order to progress. I went to the Sky Islands to fight wyverns to collect souls of flight I needed for wings. I also got this gun called the Onyx Blaster, which was pretty cool too. Then I went to the snow biome and farmed ice golems. After farming them for a while, I got an ice feather, meaning I was able to make ice wings. Flight was definitely gonna be helpful to fight bosses later on, along with a bow that rained arrows from the sky. So now I'm more than ready to fight the 3 mechanical bosses. I begin with the Destroyer rematch, and it has probes that shoot lasers at a very fast rate. But overall, it wasn't a hard fight. Then I got invaded by pirates, defeated their ship and their captain. Next, it was time to take on the second mechanical boss, the twins. I built a road of asphalt in the sky, which made me run super fast. But after that, I was ready for them, the twins. I remember the twins being the easiest boss for me when I was younger, so I guess some things really don't change. I defeated Skeletron next as well, meaning all 3 mech bosses were now defeated. I got a message saying the jungle was enraged, so that's where I have to go for the next boss. I made a full set of hollowed armor and went off into the jungle. I mined chlorophyte to make better bullets and found the Plantera bulb, which if broken spawned in the next boss. I made an arena for her and began the fight. Even though I haven't played in a while, I still remember exactly how to fight Plantera. You just move around in a circle, dodging all of its projectiles, and try not to get hit by its head. That being said, I almost died several times. Defeating Plantera unleashes the forces of the dungeon, making the enemies there stronger, and also drops a jungle dungeon key, which takes me to the next boss. But for now, I had to do a few things before that. I spent a fortune trying to upgrade my weapons, draining most of the money in my piggy bank. It's sad to know that I still have the same bad Terraria spending habits that I had when I was younger. I began working on this overworld mushroom biome to move in a certain villager that would give me more upgrades later on. He moved in after a while, which allowed me to make shroomite armor, which let me go invisible when I stood still. So now I'm ready to go to the jungle temple and fight Golem. I entered the jungle temple, got killed by most of the traps, but I made an arena. I finally summoned the Golem and died. My younger self would never believe I'd be losing to Golem, the easiest hard mode boss in my opinion. I couldn't believe it either, so I stopped messing around and locked in on the golem fight. While he was low health, a blood moon started, so I got a little worried, but I took him down, giving me a weapon called the Stinger, which of course I spent more money to make stronger. After this, I got invaded by the Martians, which killed me more times than I could even count. I managed to kill a few flying saucers and got an electrosphere launcher, which was pretty strong. I wanted a weapon called the Xenopopper, but I couldn't get it. Then there was a solar eclipse event, which had a variety of different enemies. I was trying to get the nail gun, but I sadly couldn't get it. I also killed Mothron a ton of times, but I couldn't get their wings. Overall, I got a bit unlucky, but the event was still fun. With those out of the way, it was time to fight the next boss, Duke Fishron. From what I remember, Duke used to be my favorite boss, so let's hope I have a good time. Yeah, I did not have a good time. I summoned the Frost Legion to farm Sand Tank for the chain gun, but I couldn't get that either. But I got this thing called the Snowman Cannon, which was also pretty good too, so I'm not complaining. It was time to fight Duke again. The third stage was when I would die most of the time. He would go invisible and dash at me, making it impossible for me to hit him. After so much struggle, I finally defeated Duke, which means we are at the final stretch of the game. Every boss, NPC, and even slime led up to this moment, so it's time to finish it. There's a cultist in the dungeon who worships the Moon Lord, so I headed out to defeat the cultist. I beat him, and that started the lunar event. The lunar event spawns in 4 pillars that I had to take down, each guarded by a horde of enemies. I took down my first pillar to get a gun called the Vortex Beater, which was amazing. I took down the rest of the pillars, and now it was time to fight the Moon Lord. I defeated his hands and eye, so the only thing left was his heart. But I was on my last straw with barely any health left. I thought I was about to lose. That's when I realized I could use the nurse to heal. So I paid her a small fee, giving me enough health to finally defeat the Moon Lord. It still doesn't feel right beating the final boss. I reflected on my personal journey and thought about how I still had some of the same habits I had 10 years ago. I kept fighting a boss without making adjustments, wasting all of my money on reforges, and relying on others to finish things, like using the nurse to heal. Luckily, there was still a chance to prove myself. There was a boss I forgot to defeat called the Empress of Light, who was apparently pretty strong too. I collected its summon, and it was time to fight the Empress. With all of the bosses defeated, I have now fulfilled the prophecy I made to myself 10 years ago. But along the way, I learned that self-growth isn't always linear. You'll always have your ups and downs, but it's about not dwelling on your failures and being willing to improve. That's what makes you who you truly are. My journey in this world is over, and for the last time I say goodbye to all of my NPCs. But wait, in the depths of the underworld, I felt a flame like no other. A flame radiating pure calamity.